Greetings, and welcome to the end of the LEGO Rewind Year of Space, with what may be the spaciest theme of all. I first covered Exploriens in the original Exploriens Rewind in 2019, for a minute and 22, maybe 23 seconds. For years I've been ashamed to give it so little screen time in supposedly its own episode. That changes today. Cause since then I've got my hands on the entire Exploriens line and I was not familiar with their game. This is the coolest LEGO space theme ever made. Not the best, the builds are a little wonky, but they're right up there with Ice Planet's cool factor and they sit on that shelf together. I want these two to be the first thing LEGO appreciators see when they walk into this space. Exploriens is a 1996 line, released shortly after Spaciest and Unitron and before RoboForce and UFO. It had much more overlap with the later themes, but it did mingle a bit with Spaciest and advertisements, and it makes an impression. White and black with accents has been done more than a few times since, but none of them pop like this. And the dark trans blue, trans yellowish green, and even a bit of trans red adds so much contrast. Funny thing is, these are still mostly Spaciest colors, just with the red swapped out for white. But what a difference it makes. Happy and whimsical, but just edgy enough to brave the wonders of deep space. The crew, by contrast, are oddly grounded. There are multiple shades of gray standing out from the much louder builds instead of blending in. They even have their own Kartovsky-like robot crewmate, Android, and their leader, Nova Hunter. These names sum up the spirit of the whole theme. Exploriens' design language is bold. The wedge-shaped grids, slopes, and panels were new pieces released with this theme, creating an angular, stretched outlook. But they play well with more classic molds, like these then almost 30-year-old fences that perfectly match the other textures. Another cute trend I noticed is smaller hybrid ground vehicles with rear wheels and pontoons in front. I guess this planet's gravity is low enough that they can gently ski along. As different as they are stylistically from Spaciest by just a couple years separation, they show how diverse yet cohesive old-school space was. Heck, look at this set I missed. I told you Spaciest and Unitron were a precursor to modern theme's multiple complementary factions sharing one box. Look at the Spaciest robot's giant hand with fingers made of arms, just like today. Still, I like to think the Exploriens were mostly out of Spaciest's reach, exploring depths of space never before seen by human eyes. As the name implies, this is a peaceful, curious group, mainly filling the civilian role. But for those who don't live in parts of the world where RoboForce filled the good guy slot, Exploriens was just versatile enough to fill both roles, littered with huge, exaggerated gizmos. These look like telescopes or scares to me, but I could see them modified for defense. Doesn't have to be anything violent like a giant laser blowing up offending ships. Could just scramble their sensors long enough to escape. Also huge sparkly dishes, control panels with a similar texture that look incredibly advanced but a pain to actually use. Screens that change depending on the angle, though mine seem a little faded. Magnets, magnetic stickers depicting alien fossils and artifacts, and X-ray doohickeys that pick up different fossils with each color. Another gimmick that sometimes appears today, though it's funny how you could also hold the fossils behind any of these dark trans blue walls and get the same result as the blue lenses. And they managed to squeeze most of these features into almost every set, even the smaller ones. The Outpost is an excellent use of space. It's got the telescope, the screen, the magnets, the stickers, the X-rays, and the X-ray device can even be removed and hauled around by a minifigure. The Android base has the cutest version. Just a little cubby in the corner under this space street lamp. They even made each telescope a little different. And then they also have the usual modular features, accessories, storage, grabby claws. This theme is Gimmicks City. Their starship has like 30 moving parts, and everything aligns about. Even some features that don't make sense, like removable thrusters that to my knowledge don't actually connect to anything else. Maybe another feature or set was cut. Spindly as some sections are, it holds together well. It has a droop snoot, droop wings with their own landing gear that move with you, and I just like the attitude of this thing. After so many factions with their own giant flagships, it couldn't have been easy to come up with something new and distinct. Space Police 2 stood out by stacking the windscreens over each other, Spaciest had two next to each other, Ice Planet's Deep Freeze Defender had its own iconic split nose design, then Exploriens like, oh yeah, let's have 3 cockpits, more like 3.5. Yeah, I'm not sure where there is to go from there, except wherever this is. I used to think this jellyfish-like structure was a space colony, but here you can see its legs poking into a mesa. So the Exploriens have a settlement on this planet, or moon, that feels questionably stable, like it's still cooling down. Not as bad as its nearby parent planet that won't finish forming because its wormhole keeps blasting it. Heck, just look at all that pink radiation leaking out everywhere. This is not a safe place to do research. And yet Spaciest also has a secret presence here, hidden in this LEGO Racers shortcut. One of the craziest space backgrounds for sure. Well, aside from UFO maybe. Look at this sky. It's the same color, only worse, like all the stars are tinted. I'm just now noticing those two stars that look like eyes, and if you back up a bit, a face? Oh, this is horrifying. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is another dimension. It might all be ominous like that. And I'm betting this is just on the other side of the wormhole, almost a DS9 dynamic. This UFO set even has an Exploriens background, so I guess it's a scout? These two themes were marketed together a lot, UFO Zotaxians being the next big bad guy faction. But who went through the wormhole first? Did the Exploriens cross over, perceived as invaders? Or did the Zotaxians detect our presence on this side, from their side, and preemptively attack? Such an aggressive response wouldn't surprise me much, since their government is so corrupt and evil that some Zotaxians risked it all fleeing to a world of giant bugs where they had to dress up their rides as giant bugs to not get eaten. Maybe they could team up with the Exploriens. UFO was another very gimmicky line, and barely resembles classic space with those giant quarter domes and extravagant prints. Which is not a criticism, that just makes them feel more alien, and a good foil for the Exploriens, where those classic stylings and Star Trek-like spirit are still very much alive. In fact, I take back what I said about Spaciest and Unitron. This was the last space theme to be like that. It's fitting that while the Explorian starship embodies some of Trek's themes, the enemy flagship is literally an evil enterprise. I would have loved to get some B-roll of them together, but I called backup for that. Yep, it's RR Slugger again, and dang, just soak in this sluggy ooze. This isn't like Spaciest and Unitron being two sides of the same coin. This is more like the end of one era and the start of another. They couldn't be more different, but they go together so well. Exploriens boxes are art. I've kept most of them, and they have more spaces in the wall of history than any other theme, even Bionicle. And this poster. The wormhole is exploding. I just now noticed the skull in the rocks, so I guess the moon is alive. And these thrill seekers are casually doing repairs and poking around with their... Wait, those light gray detectors don't appear in any Explorian sets? But they do pop up in some accessory packs for adjacent space themes. I bricklinked one just for this episode. And another. The back of these boxes yield some pretty out there alt builds. They aren't as consistently so good they could be their own sets as RoboForce, but a few are really good, worth expanding your Exploriens world with. But the alt builds don't end there. Rebrickable is keeping the dream alive. There's a fan-designed Exploriens brickhead, a heavy truck that actually integrates some of the gimmicks, a robot dog I was able to piece together just in time for this episode, a whole ship made from that outpost, another one that reminds me of a butterfly, a nice planet version of the outpost, a train, and a dropship that carries a whole portable lab. Yeah, these are awesome. Keep them coming. The key of the ones I highlighted is how wacky they are. Exploriens is a wacky theme made of funky shapes. Best enjoyed when that's embraced. Older LEGO definitely has a look. If LEGO tried remaking these now, they'd still be angular and sharp, maybe sharper, but also more refined and sturdy and realistic. And I think some of the theme's attitude would be lost in that sleekness. Of all the space themes I've covered, again, I'm not sure I can say it's the best on a technical level, but it's as spacey as it gets. The loudest, most in-your-face expression of classic space's goals and motifs. There'll never be another LEGO space theme like it. Once again, I thank RR Slugger. At the beginning of the year, I had plans to acquire some Spaciest, Unitron, RoboForce, and UFO sets. Not all of them, just enough to demonstrate the points I wanted to make. It's become part of the show's format in recent years to film B-roll of the sets I'm talking about and get a more detailed feel than I could just looking at the box starter commercials, and then 2025 happened and I wasn't able to do any of that. Thank goodness I already had the Exploriens. Each time I approached Slugger for an assist, I told myself it would be the last time. But it kept happening. He essentially became part of LEGO Rewind for a year, and recent episodes wouldn't have been complete without his help. I still would have worked out some version of these episodes, but some bits would have been impossible. So thanks for being part of the year of space, Slugger. You are LEGO Rewind. And thank y'all who have stuck by this channel during possibly the hardest year it's ever had. That's it for today. Check out my books on Amazon.itch.io and my Patreon page to get videos like this early, your name in the credits, behind the scenes content, a patron Discord server, signed copies of Planet Ripple, and maybe even your own LEGO Rewind episode. See you next time with the 2025 year in review. Toodles.